Hello, everybody, and welcome to Riftbound Ramblings. I'm your host, Barrett, and today is Wednesday. Happy Hump Day, everybody, as we dive in for the June 18th card reveals for the first set of Riftbound Origins. And we've got some fun ones today. Not a lot of cards, as there were only two different outlets that were giving us reveals today. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and kick things off. First off, from Wargamer, they gave us four cards today. We have the Captain Farron, which is a 4 energy, 1 power, 5 might, Noxus Trifarian Fury Domain unit that says other friendly units here have Assault, which means, and it's just Assault 1, so it means when they're attacking, they get an extra might. And I think this card's fine. I don't think there's anything special about it. It is just like an uncommon, right? But I am a good friend of mine makes a really good point that every time I think about these cards, that power cost has to be quite impactful for me, or it really is going to set yourself behind. Granted, a bunch of people are going to be playing power costed cards, and whether you have gears or versus if people are blowing up your gears or the seals specifically, I just I really have to weight a lot of these cards based off of how powerful I think they are for that power cost. And I think this one's fine. I think it has potential when you can if there's a world or a deck that can make a bunch of dudes very quickly. But I and Fury is the domain to do it. Don't get me wrong, but it's a good team attacker that wants to go with other people. But I don't think it's very impactful, and I don't think it'll make a lot of cuts for decks. But I think it's okay. Moving on, we've got the Bilgewater Bully, also by Wargamer. This is a 6 energy, 6 might Bilgewater Body Domain rune. And it says, while I'm buffed, I have ganking. And I'm a big fan of ganking, and I'm learning to love the buff cards. So I like this one. I think this was fine. And just like how I said on the rating and scaling of the one before, I think this one is a lot more playable because it doesn't have a power cost associated with it. Of course, if you can buff it very quickly, you can move it, but you don't have to buff it the turn that it comes in, which is nice because it's going to come in exhausted and you don't really care about it being buffed just quite yet. If your opponent wants to play removal for this guy that you played, awesome, but it doesn't have any immediate impact when it's played, which is why I'm going to give it a diamond rating. But I do think it's fine. I think it's a good body to play, and it's a mighty unit, right? And the body domain cares about that. Moving on, we've got Call to Glory, also from Wargamer. For 3 energy, this is a spell that can be played basically at any time, and it says, this is also for the order domain, and it says, as you play this, you may spend a buff as an additional cost. If you do, you ignore the spell's cost, and it says give a unit plus 3 might. So I think at bare minimum with this guy, it is a free buff from hand for 2 might. And I say that for 2 might because minimum you just give the extra might to the unit that had the buff and for the sake of playing this for free. Obviously this is way better when you have a buff on a unit that you don't care about. Oh, great. So more Cythria support, and I think Cythria already is very good because we've already been shown other buff spenders, and now we have a reaction speed spell that says every time we keep playing units, this buff that we keep putting on our 2-drop 1 might unit, we get to keep spending those buffs. I think that's pretty good for a snap 3 might from hand. So I don't know. I just every time I look at more cards with the buff support, I think it's pretty strong. I think set decks are going to really appreciate this. Obviously, even other decks like Leona can use this card because Leona gets buffs every time she plays stun stuff. So I think this card's pretty good for a costless plus 3 might, ideally on a unit where you steal a buff from somewhere else. Moving on, this is the last card we got from Wargamer. This is the Fury Domain Vayne Champion unit, and it is for 4 energy, 1 power. You get a 2 might Vayne Demacia unit, and it has Assault 3, so it's really a 5 might unit. And it says, if an opponent controls a battlefield, I enter ready. Wow, that's really good. When I conquer, you may pay 1 energy to return me to my owner's hand. So that's kind of cool. Very thematic. Obviously, 80 carries being a little squishy, which is why it has 2 might. Kind of makes sense to me. But Vayne is also very much about like going in and out, using invisibility in the game of League of Legends. So it's really cool that you can kind of pay the 1 energy and bounce it back. And again, if you're as long as your opponent has a battlefield, it comes in ready. You can attack right away. I like this one. I specifically like this one because I think it's going to be really good for Legion decks. So I have Darius here, obviously, that has the Fury domain, so he can play Vayne. And I put the champion unit for Darius from the Order domain here because obviously I get, Barrett, this costs 10 energy for you to do this play. Absolutely, it costs you 10 energy to do this play. But you can play Vayne as long as your opponent has a domain. You play Vayne, and then you can play Darius because you've already played a card for the turn, and you have 2 units that come in ready, and you can swing with them right away. They don't have to go to the same domain, or the same battlefield, sorry, to take over. So you can have one 6 might unit go to one battlefield, and you can have one 5 might unit go to one battlefield, or you can try and take the game if you need one more battlefield or whatever. For 11 might, actually 12 might, because Darius will buff up the Vayne even more when you swing. I think this has potential. And I also just think Vayne has potential in general because she comes in ready, right? And I I don't think this is any different than playing an accelerator, like a unit that has accelerate on it, because you're paying the power for the champion unit. She's just easy to remove, and like I think that's fine because I think if you're gonna play like an aggro deck, which is not this play, obviously, this plays for 10 energy, but if you're gonna play an aggro deck and you're playing an assaulter, Vayne is fine because she has all this extra stuff tacked onto her, right? She's actually for 5 might. You can play her on turn 2 if you go second because she only costs 4. And at any point, if you think she's going to be like sniped at a certain point, you can conquer. When you conquer with her, you can bring her back. And that also means later in the game, if you have a ton of energy, you can play her again. So like a 9 might play is play Vayne, swing with her, take the battlefield, pay the 1, bounce her back, play her again. You can easily do that, and I don't know. I just think that kind of versatility on a card. I also have it with Noxie and Guillotine here because again, it's just like this is an 8 might play, but or 8 energy I should say. But the play is you play Vayne. Obviously, if they have a thing, she comes in ready, and immediately you get to snap kill a thing. So you get to immediately take over any battlefield if they only have 1 unit defending it that Vayne couldn't get over it otherwise, or you kill the thing that makes it a reason why Vayne can't get over it. And I think it's just a really strong play. Again, only in Darius deck's signature spell for him. I think Vayne's pretty good. I didn't quite put it as a challenger card, which is crazy because I really should have, but I think people are going to be hesitant on whether or not they think this card is good or not. But I think this card easily has the potential to become quite good. So I don't think there's any reason why I should give a diamond or anything less than this is how I should feel. Moving on, we've got reveals from the other person today, which is the Riftbound reports. You can find them on Twitter mainly, and I would honestly love to collaborate with this player or this person because we do very similar things, talking about just the news and updates. But anyway, we have the battlefield, the Bandle tree, which says you may hide an additional card here. And wow, I think obviously we have more cards to still see for this entire set, but obviously this is incredibly good for Teemo players. Teemo players rejoice. I already think Teemo is looking to be pretty good. Just when it comes to like an aggro, throw your opponent for a loop type deck because you get to save so many of these power costs on cards because you don't have to pay them for your hidden stuff, and that feels really good. And then right out the get go, I put the champion unit for Teemo here, the Chaos one, because my gripe with the champion unit here is you can only have 1 hidden card at a normal battlefield. But with Bandletree, you can have Teemo Scout and also like a spell-based hidden card. And I just think that's really good for this deck. And so this is just the battlefield you're almost always wanting to pick. And to top it off, my biggest thing about battlefields and how I determine their strength is you want to pick a battlefield that is mainly going to help you and isn't going to give a bunch of benefit for your opponent. And I think hidden cards are going to be a little niche. They're not going to be in every deck. So it also helps your mushroom pouches, hopefully, like for maintaining a face down card, because if you only had to use one hidden card to defend a battlefield, you can keep the other one there for later, which means at the beginning of your turn you draw another card. I went too far. I just think it's a challenge level card specifically for the Teemo decks, and that is good enough to me to make a card like a battlefield play. So I think it's quite good. And then moving on for the last card today, we have Invert Timelines, once again from Riftbound Report, which is a 3 energy, 1 power Chaos Domain spell. And it says each player discards their hand and then draws 4. So I think right away, so it's an epic level card. I think right away, I think this card, Snap Reaction, I think this is actually pretty good. This refreshes your hand because you start the game with 4 cards, essentially. And it's going to be obviously very good for characters like Jinx. It's actually so good for Jinx that I'm like kind of 180ing a lot of my like opinion on how powerful I think she's going to be for like an aggressive deck. My biggest gripe for the Jinx deck, of course, still is that there's a lot of power cost in that deck, and but Invert Timelines is a really good snap card to draw, and it triggers discard effects for things like the Chaos Jinx champion unit that I have here on screen. Which lets you keep going. It just lets you keep going, right? It lets you take more battlefields. It lets you move her around. And drawing 4 cards is really good. It's just really good. I also think this is going to be really good in Teemo decks. Like I said, like I think Teemo, especially now with the battlefield that we were shown off, I think Teemo is going to be able to spend a lot of their cards in their hand to not just play units, but to play them as hidden cards. And now that you can play 2 at a battlefield, at that battlefield, you're going to have less cards in your hand. As long as you're discarding 0 or just discarding 1 to draw 4, I think this card's always going to feel good to play, even though you are giving your opponent 4 new cards off the top of their deck. But if they are just not spending them and using their cards as efficiently and quickly as you are, you're going to always feel like you're getting the edge. And if they're trying to hold on to something impactful, you get rid of it. Also, we've now seen 2 separate cards with Echo on them from 2 different domains, so of course I would talk about it. If we eventually get an Echo Legend at some point soon, we can guess that it's obviously going to be part of the Chaos and Mind domains, just so they have access to this champion unit. And also, I mean, Echo's ability basically is on the spell, and he's on the flavor text. So very cool if you like this kind of playstyle. And he's going to be really good at like writing his resources again, writing his runes, I should say. But I'll go ahead and give Invert Timelines a challenger rating because I do think it is quite good. I think the aggro decks rejoice here. Again, my only thing and how I think they're going to overcome is, how many power costed cards are you going to be able to put in your deck? And once again, this one does cost power as well. But that's it for the cards today. Very short video, but if you like what you see, go ahead and give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, comment down below on what you think and your thoughts. But I'm glad you all came in for this one. This is Wednesday. We do have another day this week for more reveals. So feel free to stick around, and I will see you all on Friday.